You are tuned in to the Monday Night Carlo, Sports and Entertainment Sportscast. And now, without further ado, I give to you the one and only Carlo.
Hello everybody and welcome to Monday Night Carlo. This is your host Carl Eggett and I'm going to talk to you all about NXT Take Over Dallas and Wrestlemania itself. But before I do that, let me tell you and welcome you to Monday Night Carlo, the pop culture podcast available through iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio and the like. Available on social media at MNC Podcast on Twitter, Monday Night Carlo on Instagram and Facebook.com/MNC Podcast. So I want to talk first about NXT Take Over Dallas. What a show this was. In this very special edition of MNC, where I'm going to wrap it all up for you and give my opinion, because from what I hear from you guys, you say that I don't convey my opinions enough. So that's exactly what I'm going to do on this show. I'm going to give my opinions. Let's do this. Power fist. Here we go. All right. NXT Take Over Dallas. What an amazing opening match to the card. The tag team titles are on the line. Jason Jordan, Chad Gable, American Alpha versus the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder. And what a match this was. For me, this was my favourite match of the card. It was absolutely sensational. There was a little mess up as well from Scott Dawson, which was quite funny, as the crowd didn't go lightly on him. But I think they forgave him quickly enough. But the fluidity, the move sets, and the match itself was out of this world. It was definitely a very old school vibe to the match. The Revival very much remind me of the Brainbusters of old. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, old school tag team, the Brainbusters. Maybe the younger listeners won't know who that is. Maybe you want to go on WWE Network and look up the Brainbusters, because they were a great, great tag team. And then you will realise just how much like the Revival are to those two legends. The American Alpha, to me, obviously remind me a lot of Kurt Angle, which a lot of people say as well. How cool would it be to see Kurt Angle back in the WWE? But a whole new lease of life for Kurt Angle in the WWE would be to be a wrestler on WWE and a manager on NXT, because how cool would it be to have Kurt back wrestling in the WWE and managing the American Alpha in the tag team ranks in the NXT? Just look at the tag teams that there are now upcoming in the WWE and NXT. It's getting crazy again. It's getting to the point now where we're getting proper tag teams back in wrestling, which is where it should be. It's been so long since we've had decent tag teams in the WWE and NXT, and now all of a sudden we've got a collection of them, whether it be American Alpha, whether it be the Revival, whether it be the Vaudevillains, whether it be I actually used to really like the Ascension, but they have done zero with them in WWE, but we'll include the Ascension as well because they are a tag team. Obviously, the return of the old veterans nowadays, the Dudley Boys as well, which is very cool for the younger talent. And how cool was it to see Enzo and Cass on Raw this week? The reception that those boys got was amazing, and their tit for tat with the Dudleys on the mics was amazing. The crowd reaction was great. It was fun to see as well. And some of the jokes that Enzo does are just crazy, fun entertainment. And that's what they do best. Enzo and Kaz, very, very fun tag team. I'm a little bit sad not to see Carmella to make the trio. It was very weird to not see Carmella there with them. But I'm sure there's a reason for that, and I'm sure the reason is because Carmella will now become a talent all on her own in the NXT Women's Division. Carrying on with the card for NXT, we then saw Austin Aries in a lukewarm debut match, in my opinion, against Baron Corbin. It wasn't the best match. It's the shortest match in time frame on the card, I think. It was lukewarm. It was not as good as I was expecting to be. Austin Aries would have been better against a more aerial opponent, I think. Even though I do love Baron Corbin, I think he's a great heel, great power moves. I don't think the style of Austin Aries kind of went well with Baron Corbin. I was expecting more from Austin, and I didn't really get it in this match. Even the finisher to me was pretty half-baked. So it was really cool to see Austin in the NXT, and I think he will come good. He is literally one of the best wrestlers out there in the world today, so he will come good without a shadow of a doubt. And then, of course, we go to the women's match, Asuka versus Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship, which was absolute quality. Bayley losing to Asuka at the end of the match, a new women's champion. But it's one I didn't see coming. I thought Bayley might retain on this because we've seen Bayley overcome the odds. But I think that was the whole storyline and point of the match, was to see Asuka come through very strong woman. Very strong submission moves and holds and things by her. And even Bayley struggled to match Asuka pound for pound with her move set. So Asuka, very strong finish. New women's champion. And I think that belt is going to be around her waist for quite some time. Does this signal a move for Bayley to go into the main roster in the WWE? I don't know. I don't think so. Not quite yet. Who knows? We'll keep an eye out on that one. And then we move on to the match that some hail as one of the greatest matches in NXT history. If not, I've heard some people call it one of the best matches in wrestling history, which is Shinsuke Nakamura in his debut against Sami Zayn, a match which ran for just over the 20-minute mark. Move for move, pound for pound, it was an amazing match. But for me, there was something a bit more personal with the tag team opener. For me, that wins my match of the night for me. The Revival versus American Alpha was that bit better than the singles match with Nakamura and Sami Zayn. And I know there's going to be people screaming at me right now saying, what are you talking about, Carlo? But I love tag team wrestling, and I love the fact that these two guys brought tag team wrestling back to where it needs to be, and that's exactly what they did in their match. It was a brilliantly laid out match, as was Nakamura versus Sami Zayn. It was absolutely amazing. Pound for pound, one of the best matches out there, like I said, and I can see why so many people like this. The middle part of the match, where they were just exchanging blows with each other, was amazing. It was immense, and the crowd going absolutely crazy. And the finish in itself with that huge kick, you can see why Nakamura is called the King of Strong Style. I haven't seen Nakamura personally in Japan or checked out his videos, so I didn't know anything about him and his style and what Strong Style was. I now know what strong style is, and it's very intimidating, very high kicks, high power, high intensity. Sami Zayn pretty much matched him, apart from at the very, very end when Nakamura bested him with the kick, with the through kick. I don't know if you'd call it a super kick, because he pretty much took Sami's head off with it, and ended the match. 1-2 done. Nakamura with his first win in NXT, and this man, I can't see why he won't go right to the very, very top of NXT and probably WWE in months to come, I believe. Sami Zayn, as we know, is moving on to the main roster. Sami Zayn fills that void for us that is now there with the departure of Daniel Bryan. Sami Zayn is that underdog character with a lot of heart, a lot of skill and technical ability. So I can see Sami Zayn going very far in WWE. Will he become a champion? I certainly think he'll be an Intercontinental Champion, if not more. I certainly think that you can put the strap on Sami Zayn. I think he's got the ability, he's got the moves. Whether he'll do that in his career, I don't know, but the future is bright for Sami Zayn. And then, of course, we had the main event, which was for the NXT Championship. Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was defeated at the hands of the Demon, Finn Balor. What a match this was. The shocking addition of blood to this match was just... to me, it was like stomach churning. We haven't seen that amount of blood and blood in the match for a long time, and it kind of shocked me to see that. Obviously, they clashed heads, cut just on the eyebrow, I think, of Joe, causing the blood to come down pretty rapidly. The crowd were not happy with the involvement of the referees clearing up the blood, but you have to, you can't just let someone's cut, especially when it's prolific as that, dribble away down the eye of Samoa Joe and just be blood all over his face. You can't let that happen, so I can see why they did it. Obviously, the crowd were that much into the match, they just wanted to see it continue. But Joe was so on point and so fired up for this match, which brought Balor into the match, made the match better, and it was an amazing match. It went just over this 16-minute mark, I believe. Finn Balor coming up with a victory. Finn Balor, maybe just maybe moving on to the main roster, so we hear. I don't think quite yet, though. I think he's got some, obviously, because he's got to pass the belt over first, but I think he's going to be in NXT for quite a while yet. I think he's got a lot to give to NXT. Joe, on the other hand, you can see moving up to WWE, just because what else can the guy learn? You're not going to be teaching that guy anything more. You don't need to either. He's a guy that's very accomplished, been all around the world wrestling. He knows what to do in that squared circle, so I can only see it's a matter of time until we see Samoa Joe in the WWE. Then we move on to WrestleMania 32. In front of that crowd, the dubious official tally of 101,000 plus at the AT&T Stadium in Texas.
25, 30, 30, 37, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 90. I'm 100% sure that if you watch Monday Night Carlo, you're going to be in for a treat. You're going to learn a lot of stuff. And thank you and thank everyone. This is a ringleader.
Now, I say dubious because I know for one that the stadium wasn't actually completely full. You can tell on the cameras. You could tell when the event kicked off, it wasn't full because people were still flooding in. I had 2 or 3 friends that went to WrestleMania 32 and they got crushed on the way in to the arena in the doorways and pushed over bins and stuff like that, and they ended up with bruising on their ribs because of being crushed on the way into the arena. And I heard stories of people ending up in tears because they couldn't get into the arena until late on and stuff, missing 3 or 4 matches of the card, not just the pre-show, but quite a lot of the cards. So they're very upset with that. And I know critically that this show got a lot of mixed reactions from pundits. They really didn't like the running time, and they really didn't like some of the dubious booking that was involved with WrestleMania 32. But let me say right off the bat that I, for one, for some screwy reason, let's say screwy reason, that sounds a good word, I enjoyed WrestleMania 32. I don't know whether it was my ability just to take my brain out and just watch it as a show, but I actually, for the most part, for a couple of dodgy decisions, enjoyed WrestleMania 32. And also, you have to see WrestleMania 32, or WrestleMania in general, as completely different from what it was back in the day, because obviously back in the day, there was only 4 pay-per-views a year. Back in the early 90s era and stuff, in the 80s and early 90s, of course. There was only 4 main pay-per-views back in the heyday of wrestling back then. And now, obviously, there's 1 a month. So my point is that the card and the matches don't really mean anything on the pay-per-view because, obviously, WWE is a continuation product. The storylines continue from week to week to week to month to pay-per-view. So this, as a card, the results in the card, even though it is WrestleMania, shouldn't be held for all they're worth because obviously we know that everything changed the next night on Raw. We know that... Well, let's talk about this match straight off the bat. Let's talk about this. Chris Jericho versus AJ Styles. I, for one, was absolutely mortified that Chris Jericho beat AJ Styles. But then, as we know, it was just set up the night after on Monday Night Raw, where AJ Styles won the Fatal 4-Way to become the number 1 contender for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And a match that I don't think AJ Styles is going to win, but it's very clever by the WWE because obviously it puts AJ where the fans think he should be and gives the fans what they want in a roundabout way after upsetting the fans the night before with WrestleMania. So let's talk a little bit about the pre-shows matches. Not that they're really worth talking about because the crowd absolutely crapped all over the Usos versus the Dudleys, and I don't think this is a bad tag match, to be fair. I thought the ending was okay, but the crowd went into it, they didn't like it, and they booed the Usos and they booed the Dudley Boys as well, so it just ruined the match for me. But I didn't mind the match. It was very short in length. But yeah, it was okay. The one worst match on the pre-show for me was the Team Total Divas versus Team Bad. It was just non-existent. It was a total car wreck. It was a match that could have easily just not existed at all, and was just there for the look and the glamour of the ladies. I think, not that I'm complaining about seeing the ladies. You know, some of them are very, very nice, Lana. But yeah, so. That was a total train wreck. But, yeah, Kalisto versus Ryback as well. I didn't mind this match. This is okay. It was for the United States Championship. The one thing I don't agree with is having a title match on a kickoff show. That you maybe shouldn't do. That is something that should happen on the main card. I mean, come on, Kalisto's no slouch. He's a good wrestler. He's got good moves, good high-flying moveset. Ryback, on the other hand, is someone that's been pushed so many times and tried to be pushed, and it just hasn't happened for him. I don't think the match was bad. And obviously Kalisto defeated Ryback and came away once again with his United States Championship. But if you guys watched WrestleMania, the first match on the actual main card that we saw was the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, a match that I really enjoyed. I didn't predict the outcome. I don't think anyone did. If you did predict that and you had a few quid on it, I think you made a few quid back, because I wouldn't have predicted it. If anything, I would have preferred to see Kevin Owens retain, setting up a feud for the WWE feud against Sami Zayn, and that's kind of the outcome that everyone wanted to see. Nobody did see Zack Ryder winning it, but I couldn't help but have a little smile when Zack Ryder did win it. I thought, I wouldn't say he deserved to win it, because obviously he's just pretty much a jobber. But, you know, he's a nice guy. He's kind of paid his dues. He's been in the WWE a while, and I just couldn't help but have a little wry smile on my face, even though it was weird to see Zack Ryder win it. I couldn't help but crack out a weird little smile, and I thought, not a bad match. Some of the moves in the match were pretty awesome. The move with Stardust on the outside of the ring with the two ladders, and where Sami Zayn was frog splashed by Kevin Owens across a ladder as well. They were awesome moves. I love those. And some pretty good spots in that match. I didn't see Zack Ryder winning it. I'll give it that much. And then we saw the six-man tag team match, the League of Nations. Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, Rusev, King Barrett versus the New Day. Obviously, the League of Nations coming up with a win. At first, I watched this match and I thought, why have the League of Nations just won this match? I was honestly expecting the New Day to win. But then, obviously, we know that the League of Nations won to set up the legends coming down the ramp. The music for Shawn Michaels hit. The crowd goes absolutely mental. We see the arrival of Michaels. We see the arrival of Austin. We see the arrival of Mick Foley. We saw the dance moves of one Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin, which were pretty dubious to say the least. Then we saw a couple of stunners, which was awesome. And then we saw the guys share a few beers. And then they went, and it was a good, fun segment. And if you didn't enjoy that, what's wrong with you? Why are you a wrestling fan? You didn't enjoy that? Three legends in the ring, fun few minutes. It was good fun, and just celebrity and WrestleMania go hand in hand. So it was good to see the three legends come back and entertain us for a few minutes. And then we saw the street fight between Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar. The no-holds-barred street fight, only at WrestleMania 32. And, it was okay. I didn't think it was as good as I imagined it to be in my own mind. Although I'm not a fan of the cute and cuddly Dean Ambrose. I want to see risk-taking, ass-whipping, badass Dean Ambrose. He's very kind of playful, cute and cuddly Dean Ambrose at the minute, and I'm not a fan of that. He tries to be smart and clever and one-line quips against people, and I don't think that's what Dean Ambrose's character should be. I think he should be a more Ryan Pillman-esque, more kind of hardcore and to the point and just badass, smashing people up. But we didn't see that as much as I thought we would. I thought we could have seen, obviously Brock Lesnar was going to win the match, but I think that Brock Lesnar could have been torn apart and still come out as a winner. We didn't really see Brock really go down and come up again. We just saw Dean Ambrose go at him with a few weapons. And he got, obviously, F5'd on the chairs. And we saw Lesnar pick up the W. And that's pretty much all the match was. It wasn't all what I thought it was going to be. One match was what I thought it was going to be. And that was the triple threat women's match. Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks and Charlotte. A lot of people online really upset with the fact that Charlotte came away with the win. Before the match, at the pre-show, we all knew that there's a new WWE Women's Championship belt, which in my opinion looked amazing. I really liked the look of it. Obviously it was the same as the men's version, just instead of the black and red and gold, it was white and red and gold, and I think it looks classier than the Divas title. Divas Championship is very outdated, and now we have the rebirth of the WWE Women's Championship and the new Women's Champion Charlotte, who hands one belt over in the form of the Divas Championship and carries on as the new WWE Women's Champion. And I had no problem with that whatsoever. Great match. Good to see Sasha Banks come out with a Eddie Guerrero kit, which I liked, a little nod to Eddie. I had no idea that Snoop Dogg's cousin was Sasha Banks, but I do now, and that was awesome to see Snoop come down with her at the beginning of the match. Becky Lynch had a lot of fire in this match as well. I wouldn't have minded seeing Becky win the championship. A lot of people wanted to see Sasha win, but as I said, Charlotte won. No problem with that whatsoever. And then we go on to the Hell in a Cell match, The Undertaker versus Shane McMahon. This match for me was nowhere near as good as it could have been. And I'll tell you why. It's because the match itself wasn't too bad. It was slow. It was cumbersome. I didn't like the spot off the top of the cage by Shane McMahon because I felt the cage was way too high. It made my stomach almost churn over because I just thought, no wonder The Undertaker moved out of the way so quickly. The reason he done that is because if Shane would have landed on him, it would have broke a few ribs, I'm pretty sure, if not more, from that height, because I've never seen the cage that high. I don't know if that's taller or the tallest cage in Hell in a Cell match history, but it looks very, very high. And also, the spot just felt very forced when Shane came off the top of it. It just felt too long. The Undertaker wouldn't have stayed on the table for that amount of time in real life, if you like. But I think the weakest point of the match was the storyline. No one bought into it. It wasn't very well explained. And then it was just lasted out over the few weeks before WrestleMania. And it was amazing to see Shane come back. But the storyline between The Undertaker and Shane just was never really brought into by the fans. Never really explained properly. No one really understood why any of the stipulations meant anything. Because, let's face it, had Shane won, he would have had control of Raw anyway. So he could have just reinstated The Undertaker if The Undertaker was defeated. So that to me didn't really make any sense. And then obviously with The Undertaker winning, that was kind of just null and void as well. Because then The Undertaker doesn't retire. Shane doesn't win and get hold of Monday Night Raw. So that just makes zero impact or anything. And then once again, like I said, it sets up Monday Night Raw because we saw Shane McMahon take over from Vince for the night, which is a very cool aspect. Everyone liked it. Shane McMahon also brought with his version of Monday Night Raw some pretty cool debuts, as I mentioned earlier, with Kaz and Enzo coming in to the tag team divisions in the WWE, which is awesome. We also saw other wrestlers as well, and it was a different version of Monday Night Raw, and the crowd was so amped up anyway, as they always are for a Raw after WrestleMania, because of a lot of international fans, probably a lot of UK fans as well. Very pumped up crowd and ready for action. So that's why the responses were there for Monday Night Raw. And I think, to be fair, for the most part, Monday Night Raw did its job. It was a good, fun show. And then we had Baron Corbin, who won the 20-man over-the-top Battle Royal for the Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy.
You're tuned into Monday Night Carlo, the sports pop culture podcast, available on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher Radio. So why not hit that subscribe button now? Monday Night Carlo, where pop culture fun lives.
And now this is the shocker of the evening. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see Baron Corbin winning. This is also a match that a lot of people just don't really care about. I did. I'm a big fan of Andre. I used to love Andre back in the day. Legend in the WWE, of course. And Baron Corbin is also someone that I like to keep my eye on. He's a great wrestler. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't think his match with Austin Aries was that great on NXT Take Over Dallas, but I do like Baron Corbin as a wrestler. I do love his finishes. Great moves, end of days. Brilliant move, and to see him dump Kane over the top rope and get the win was awesome to me. I loved it. Great feedback from the fans as well. I think they were kind of in shock. Great win for Baron Corbin. We'll see what the WWE does with Baron. We'll see where they go with this. I think Baron could be a pretty big star in the WWE. He's got the frame, he's got the look, he's got the ability, and he's, getting over with the fans, which is also good. And then we saw a segment in which just puzzled me with The Rock. He came out with a gun. And nobody knew what this gun was, or at least I didn't. I thought, if anything, it was one of those merchandise guns that fires out T-shirts. That's what my original thought was on the gun. And he would proceed to fire Rock T-shirts into the crowd, which could have been quite cool. And then it turned out to be a flamethrower, which was pretty weird. When he set the Rock sign on fire, I was like, okay, really? And then as soon as he got in the ring and started talking, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but one thing I picked up on was the fact that he said exactly the same as he did at WrestleMania 30 about making WrestleMania babies, and 9 months from now you guys will have WrestleMania babies and we'll make little rocks and rockets and that kind of stuff. And he said it not once but twice, because then we saw the introduction of the Wyatt family, and he said exactly the same thing once again to Bray's face. Now, the bit that puzzled me was the bit with the one-on-one with Bray and The Rock in the ring, and they actually talked to each other back and forth for a little bit, and The Rock put Bray over, and he said how good he was, and the crowd reacted, how skilled he was. He's got the look, he's got the beard, he's got everything. The crowd were pretty much going crazy. Everyone wants to see the Wyatts come back to prominence and be something again. And I thought, if anything, we'd kind of see the sort of showdown with The Rock throwing a few punches, but then ultimately being overcome by the Wyatts, because I would have liked to see The Rock actually kind of lay down for the Wyatts and make them look strong. Because let's face it, as much as we all love The Rock, does The Rock really need the money or the rub of being the winner in every single outcome that he's ever faced against? And does he really need to always come out strong? Because he's not an active wrestler anymore. If anything, it could have been very, very cool to set up a match between The Rock and Bray Wyatt for WrestleMania next year, because we all know that he set up the match with John Cena a year in advance, so why not set up a match with Bray Wyatt a year in advance? That would have been quite cool to me. I would have liked to have seen it. But then we saw The Rock overcome the Wyatt family, pick them off. He defeated Eric Rowan in a one-on-one match, and then we saw The Rock get overcome a little bit by the three Wyatts cornering The Rock until John Cena's music hit. John Cena came down the ramp and helped out his friend The Rock. So then The Rock and John Cena, who do not need the rub, went and kind of destroyed the Wyatts, got rid of them, and had their moment in the ring together. And I thought, as much as I had no problem seeing John Cena come back, and I had no problem seeing The Rock look strong, I just think on this occasion they could have kind of set themselves aside and let the Wyatts have a moment. Because even when John Cena came down, what would hurt to have the Wyatts come out on top, make them look strong? They're the full-time wrestlers. The Rock isn't a full-time wrestler. The Rock, to me, could have put Bray Wyatt a lot more over, and the Wyatt family in general. Didn't happen. But anyway, moving on. We move on to the main event, which was Roman Reigns versus Triple H for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This match was just exactly how I expected it to be, and that's a big disappointment because it went the way that I think everyone thought it was going to go. Obviously, Roman Reigns coming out winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship after the most kind of generic match I think you could ever see. I think they put on exactly what everyone thought they were going to do. They put in the moves everyone thought they were going to pull. They'd done everything that people thought they were going to do. There was nothing extra. There was nothing special. There was no special feel to the match for a WrestleMania main event. The last match on the card, there was nothing special about it or feeling for it whatsoever by the fans. Triple H comes out, gives it his best to put Roman Reigns over again, gives him a good beating, can't get the job done. Roman Reigns comes back heavy, pins him 1, 2, 3, becomes the World Heavyweight Champion, and nobody cares. So then, once Roman Reigns pins him, becomes the champion, we hear the pyro go off, just to mask. I think a lot of that was just to mask the fans, because the fans, there was some cheering, some booing, there's little pockets, but for the most part, I think the crowd were pretty much 70% quiet. So to mask all that, we had like 2 or 3 rounds of fireworks going off. WrestleMania came to an end after a huge 5-hour show. I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but the ratio of 5-hour show to actual wrestling in the match, I think there was only about a couple of hours of wrestling in the actual WrestleMania itself compared to the amount of show. So I would give WrestleMania 32 A 6 out of 10 in my opinion. I thought for me personally, it entertained me, but not how it could have entertained me. For a WrestleMania that it was your biggest ever in crowd attendance history, it wasn't booked very well. There were some very dodgy decisions in the outcomes. The matches didn't flow particularly well. And then when you come off the back of a show like NXT that shows you how good you can put on a wrestling show, it also makes it look weaker as well. So yeah, 6 out of 10 is my response and rating for this event. I thought it was entertaining to watch, fun to watch, but the matches didn't come anywhere near the quality of NXT. They didn't even really try and push any boundaries, like I said, with the Shane match and the Roman Reigns match and The Rock even not putting people over when he could have done. And I don't think it was half as good as it could have been if someone would have said, let's make this show different, let's make this show better. If someone would have pushed the door down and actually said, let's do this, let's make this happen, this is in front of the world's largest WrestleMania crowd of all time, let's just shake it up a bit, because it could have been shook up a bit, there could have been different outcomes, there could have been more emphasis put on different things, but instead they went for the tried and tested, and they gave us matches exactly how we thought they were going to play. And that's my kind of roundup of WrestleMania 32. Lackluster pay-per-view that I personally enjoyed just because I took my brain out and enjoyed it. And I know that you guys have a lot of mixed response to it as well. I hope you enjoyed the review and the podcast. If you're listening to the Monday Night Carlo podcast through iTunes or Stitcher, please, I'd be very grateful if you could leave me a podcast review and a 5-star rating. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much for listening. There's a lot more guests to come on this show. Thank you so much for your support. There's not many things in life for free, but subscribing to MNC Podcast is exactly that. So thank you for subscribing as well. I'll catch you next time down the road on MNC.
You've been listening to MNC. All views and opinions expressed by Carlo are all his own and do not represent any other entity.